Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. We're going to be talking about creating lasting customer relationships that fuel business growth. So if you haven't met me before, my name's Trinity, and here at Business Station, what we do is to help small business owners across Western Australia and the rest of the country to grow their businesses. We do that through coaching, we run workshops, and also webinars and events. So at Business Station, we're really passionate about supporting local businesses with practical tools and strategies to create that sustainable success. And today's session is no exception. We're going to be looking at how you can build deeper, long-lasting relationships with your customers and keep them coming back for more. And I'm really excited tonight to have with us our very special guest, one of our business coaches at Business Station, Rebecca. So Rebecca is a business owner herself. She's a digital consultant, a certified mentor, and she's a business coach. With over 12 years of experience, she is an expert in business development, sales, and customer success. And Rebecca has worked with businesses across a whole bunch of different sectors, really helping them grow by creating those strong, loyal customer relationships, which is what we're talking about tonight. Rebecca's also really passionate about working with women in male-dominated industries, and she takes a creative, non-cookie cutter approach to business growth. So we're really privileged to have you with us tonight. Welcome, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today. So just to kick things off, could you tell us a little bit more about your background and exactly how you became passionate about helping businesses build those kind of long-term customer relationships?
Sure. When I was employed, I was about 12 years in sales, business development, and account management. So I've worked across many different industries. So I've got really great insight to customers in that regard, but also prior to that, I was more in those customer service roles where I did start my career. So in government, for example. So I've worked across many different sectors, which has allowed me to work with different customers, from your business to customer and your business to business, and in different fields. So obviously each individual industry works a little bit differently, but there is some normal against the customers and how you support customers. There is some similarities in lots of different industries. So that's where my experience comes from, and obviously being a business owner for a couple of years as well.
Oh, fantastic. From your perspective and from your experience, what would you say one of the biggest challenges is right now for businesses in keeping their customers loyal? So we know that's such a focus point for us because obviously we want to retain our current customer base and keep them engaged. What would you recommend as some of the most effective strategies for creating that kind of customer loyalty that you've seen work across different industries?
Sure. So I would start with nurturing your current customers, because you want them to feel loved, basically, or like that that they're your customers for a reason. What I would recommend, and what I've seen work really well in many different industries, is to have regular touch points or catch-ups. Obviously, like I mentioned when I did the intro, business to customer and business to business is going to be a little bit different. So I'm assuming people on the webinar tonight is a bit of a mix. And some customers, especially in business to business, often we have customers that are a little bit more long-term. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more around that probably tonight. But your business to customer, if they're more like not a regular customer, then it's going to be a little bit different, but you still want to nurture them. You still want to keep in contact with them. So from a business to business perspective, if they're your existing clients, it means those regular catch-ups, having those scheduled in, what's going on for your customer, how you're supporting them in your business, and having those on a regular basis scheduled in, which is a really good way. And that is obviously building that trust, building that loyalty, and also finding out if there is any challenges currently going on, because communication is essentially key, and keeping those customers loyal is communication and keeping that regular catch up. That's what I would suggest.
That makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned a key word there, trust. Could you expand a little bit more around what role trust plays in creating those loyal customers and how we as small business owners can really build that trust?
Sure. So trust does come with communication, but I would say the very core thing of building trust is to be of service. And that is if that's nurturing current customers,
Mm.
working with current customers, even if they are going to be customers in the future. So maybe they're a prospect at this stage. So be of service to them. So be open and ask them a lot of questions about how does their business work? What do they need? What do they want? And this goes for, like I said, prospects and also your current customers, and inviting your customers to events, for example. So say you hold morning teas or you go out networking. Is that something of value to your customers? Could they come along with you? Obviously, different niches. If they're online, it's a little bit different, but thinking of ways how you can engage your current customers to build that loyalty and to build that communication. And maybe there is a way that from a business perspective that there is somebody else in your network and your current customer has a challenge that's not in your industry. Maybe you can connect them, maybe you can be supportive. So that's really what being of service is, and I think that is a main thing to build loyalty, is to be a service and also those relationships that are ongoing. It's like any relationship, really, let's be honest.
Absolutely, that makes so much sense. Yeah, being a value. Could you share more of a real world example, perhaps, where you've seen a business that was struggling with this, but you worked with them and then like they were able to successfully increase their customer loyalty? And like just to give us some insights into what they did differently to shift the needle?
Sure. So I'm going to use an example from a technology company, and it's what they did because digital world, for example, and everything's online, it's all digital. So what they did and did well is at the end of financial year, took around a physical gift to the clients. So it was cupcakes in this example, and it was a handwritten card, because particularly in that industry, being it's completely digital, it was looking outside the box and how could that customer add that value for that customer. Somebody drove around, saw the person, their contact, and delivered. You could get those delivered, depends on your budget, let's be honest. And a handwritten card is a really personal touch. And that's something I personally use in my business. It's a handwritten card. You can post it, you can give it to somebody, and that's something in the digital age that we are not doing very much. And it's that personal touch to say thank you. And
Mm,
obviously the customers loved it. It was something different, it's something unexpected.
mm,
So what I would challenge everybody that's on this webinar, how can you do something that's a little bit different
mm.
to what your industry does normally? It doesn't have to be a personalized gift, but what is something that you know your customers would love, that would be of value to them, and just something different to say thank you. And I think that builds loyalty. And even just saying thank you, or maybe it's a gift in a different way, I think that works really well. And doing that twice a year, if that's possible, if your budget doesn't allow that, finding something that is cheap, you can do it. It doesn't matter what size business you are. It's just finding a different way and thinking about what works for your industry too.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that. Yeah, having the cupcakes delivered, that's not something that's going to work for every business, but certainly that's something that you would never forget. So I can see how impactful that would be.
And just a personal touch, because I was talking
Mm.
about a software technology business here, that is something that is not done in that industry. So look at what's not done in your industry and how can that be different and what would be of value. That's what we're always looking at for customers and customer service.
That makes a lot of sense. So, another thing that you've really spoken about here, a key word, is around the importance of that great customer service, which is what you're mentioning. Could you expand a little bit more, Rebecca, around some of the key ways that businesses can really improve their customer service to meet and exceed expectations?
Sure. So if you don't have a process on board, that would be where I start. So if you have, for example, you've got a customer coming into your business for the first time, do you have an onboarding process for this customer? Because that's your first impression. They've signed with you, whether it's signed or if they're in e-commerce, they've come through online and they've bought a product from you, whatever it is, but do you have an onboarding process? That's a good way to just know that customer's been onboarded into your business properly, or they've purchased something from you and it's all streamlined and it's really easy, because that's a first impression and customers are going to remember that regardless of how far down the track. If they've had a great experience, then
Mm.
they're going to come back for more, or they're going to want to work with you as a business longer. I'd also have an existing process for your current customers. So if you've got a bit bigger team, like me, I'm an individual when I work in my own business, and then I work with Business Station sometimes as well. But if you are a bigger team, you want that your employees are going to be following that process. So it's the same streamline, that they're receiving the same customer service that you would be providing as a founder, for example. So that's really important, that the customers are knowing if they're getting one of your staff members, is still going to be the same service and the same process. Obviously, you want to have a bit of your own flair in that. You don't want to be following such a strict process, but you want to know that the customer's been guided through that process. You're making sure that there is a great touch point. So I would say, if everybody has a CRM, utilize that.
Mm.
That's a really good way of putting reminders in when you need to touch base with customers, the follow-ups and the catch-ups like we mentioned earlier, so having those as touch points. And sometimes the more larger businesses and agile businesses, like your technology businesses, they might have a project management system that does some of that work. It obviously really just depends on your business, really. And the other thing I would say is making sure there's a human element to that with your customer service, which I think is really important, like the regular catch-ups, the regular check-ins, face-to-face if you can do that, or online face-to-face. And last of all, I would ask your customers their preferred mode of communication. So some customers prefer email, some prefer the phone, Zoom, catch-up. Ask them when you are onboarding them, what suits them the best. I think you've got a
Absolutely.
question as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no. So Steph has just popped in. So is there a particular CRM that you would recommend, Rebecca?
It depends on the size of your business, but I personally use HubSpot. That's what I use, but there is not really. I've used Zoho before, I've used HubSpot. They're pretty good ones, but it just depends on your business. If you've got a very specialized business, then I would look in your industry to see what the standard practice, or if you've got like a general small business, HubSpot's pretty good. You've got all the different levels. Zoho's pretty good. Monday as well is really good. I've used all of those, and I think they're really easy to use and get started, and they don't have to be costly to start with. But I'd recommend and look in the
Absolutely.
industry. If you don't have a CRM, just get started with that. It just makes your business, it just makes things so much easier from a customer perspective, and from yourself. You can remember things. It's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. At Business Station, we do utilize Monday.com, which is one of the ones that you mentioned there, Rebecca. I'll include that in the follow-up email, a link where you can sign up and get your first month trial or something like that for free. So I'll make sure I include that in the follow-up email. So if you're not using something currently, like we use that one, and yeah, we find a flexible option. Um, so for those of us who do actually have staff as well, so we're not just solo operators, could you expand a little bit more about how we can improve our customer service here by training the staff? Because like you mentioned how important it is to have that consistent, high quality service that kind of feels like your business. How are we training staff to deliver that when there's more than just us as a solo operator?
The process, like we mentioned, so you've got that process in place, and in going through with your staff, the process, seeing that they understand, is already a good way to even do a bit of practice. So I'm a big believer in that, being coached, etc. A bit of role play, a bit of practice, and see if they feel comfortable with that. I think that's the most important, because if they're running your process, they have to feel comfortable when they are delivering it to the customer, so it doesn't seem robotic or it's human. So I would say making sure they're comfortable, and also getting feedback from your staff, because if they're the ones that are talking to the customer a little bit more regularly than yourself, you're wanting them to let you know, actually, this process works, it doesn't work, why is that? And taking the time to ask your staff and getting feedback from them, to get them to provide that information to you as well, because a process should be a living document, and it should be growing with your business. So that's what I would say. And then seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then working with your staff to improve your process. And even asking customer feedback. They're the ones on the other end, right? Just ask them, we've got some new staff on board. We're looking to improve. How can we improve? What
Mm.
does that look like? Asking some of your trusted customers, what do they think? What do they like about your business? And how can you improve that? And then working with your staff on that. That's how I would do it anyway.
That's fantastic. I love that. Just reaching out to the other humans that are in your business and asking for that genuine feedback. I think sometimes we forget about that human element. So I love that you've touched on that. To take it one step further, though, so when things do go wrong, when we've made a mistake, we've had a negative experience here, what are some of the best practices for turning that negative experience around into a positive one? How are we recovering?
I would say it's the speed of the response. So you've got that negative feedback come in, whichever way it is, phone, email, etc. How can you if resolve it if you can, or if you can't resolve it, how can you take that process and start to make that issue essentially? So I would say the communication is incredibly key to that customer, just to let them know, yes, I acknowledge there's a problem. This, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to resolve that, and keeping them in the loop. I can use technology because that's where I'm mostly working in. If something goes wrong, it can't always be fixed on the spot, but what it allows you to do is to say, okay, we've got a problem, we're going to flag that, and then we will have this process in place to know how to navigate and fix that issue. And just keeping their customer in the loop, this is what's going on. But it's just a really good way to let the customer know. So I just say communication and also getting feedback from this, because if something's gone wrong, maybe it's not your fault and it's not part of your process, but maybe there's a gap in your business that you didn't know about and it's fallen through the cracks. So I would say it allows you to have a look at your business as a whole. If there's something that's gone wrong,
Mm.
maybe it's an area that you can improve as well, so that the next customer doesn't have to go through that. So that's what I would say. And bad feedback is not always bad. That's what I'd like to say too. It's a reason for you to be able to grow and look at it on that perspective. Once you've gone through that, we've all got to learn, right? And there might be things that go wrong. That's business for you, isn't it?
I love that mindset shift. Yeah, turning it into an opportunity. I think that's fantastic. So we've got a question from Steph, but I'll my next point actually leads into that. So I might kick off with that and then we'll lead into Steph's question as it expands on it. So we're talking now a lot more like around that concept that you've mentioned of adding value for customers and doing that through the lens of how we can, as business owners, create value added services or products that are keeping the customers engaged, keeping them coming back every single year for more. Could you share a little bit more about that, Rebecca?
Sure. So I would always do, and I recommend my current customers always to do as well, is have you done your market research? You do that
Mm.
in the beginning of your business, but are you doing that currently through your business? The reason is you want to always know your customer, your potential customers, and what does your service or product solve? And each stage of your business, it changes a little bit as you grow. So touching back to that on a regular basis and looking at market research. Also, what we talk about in Business Station, upsell opportunities. So you're adding value to your current customers. Maybe they have been working with you for a while, but they know that in order for them to get to the next step, they need that next level package, for example, to help support them. Do you have packages and services at different levels for different customers? Just meaning that your customer can grow with you, which I think is really important, because the whole idea you're being of service, like we talked about, and we want to be able to grow with them and scale with them. So can we have an upsell? Can we have a product that would be of value to them so they can go into that package and just keep adding value? And I would say the relationships and communication is always key
Mm.
as well with that customer, like we've already mentioned too.
That's fantastic. So, to dive into that a little bit more specifically, so Steph's question here. So, she runs a children's party business and she's asking what would be some of the ways to get them to rebook for the following year. So, she's mentioned that she had three customers booked for 2 to 3 years now, but the majority of her customers only use her for 1 year and not further. She mentioned that she loves the cupcake idea, but it might not be the right fit for her business. She's also tried discounts for booking again, asking for feedback from those who do and those who do not come back the next year. What can she do to get people to rebook?
So she's tried quite a few different things. I would say, Steph, when you are at that year and you are touching base with those customers, maybe setting the goal when you're going to reach out to them. I think that's always a good way just to say, look, I'm going to touch base here. You could say there and then with them when you're actually in person to say, if you book in the next month, I can offer you XY discount. If you are, obviously, because you're going to the children's party, you're going to be in person and probably the decision maker is going to be there. So I would be trying to speak to them there and then and try and lock them in then. I know it's so far in advance, but you have a discount code for the next month or so if they book well in advance. I would do it that way just because it sounds like you've tried everything online, but in person is obviously the best way. It's worth trying to try and get a commitment. And I'd also be offering your current customers that have been through, if they have any referrals for you, and maybe you can give them a discount for the next year for them. Just saying, if you do refer somebody to me and they book and pay, then I can offer you a discount for your next year. So that could be another way of bringing some other customers and circles. And can you leave? Is there a possibility of leaving some flyers there for the other mums that are coming to pick their kids up, or just a different perspective? That's how I'd look at it. Maybe just try it. Maybe the cupcake idea might not work for your business, but that was a business to business that I was talking
Yes.
about. But definitely there would be other ways you could add value to what your ideal client's looking at.
That's fantastic. And I love the idea of the referral bonus as well, because you've got a captured target group there of other people that are going to need something similar. So that's fantastic.
And
All
the kids
right.
can
So
be selling it. The kids can be selling it as well because they're saying, "Oh,
yes,
this party was incredible." So you're like,
sugared up fans might as well capitalize on that.
exactly.
Yeah. So like building on that. So you touched a little bit on like increasing the perceived value of your product or service. Are there any specific strategies that you've seen work really well when it comes to increasing that perceived value and how we can leverage that in our small businesses?
I would say you can be picking up the phone. Let me have a think. It's asking the customers, like the market research, and to know what they need and just to keep like working with them. I think that's really the value because you know what they need, and trying different things like that suggestion that we just talked about is offering more value. The more you get to know them, the more value there is essentially that you can give that customer or that customer base. So I would go along the lines of really what we've already been talking about and just growing that loyalty and that relationship really.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, yeah, you touched on this as well, like with the kids, but like having some social proof, like the testimonials or the case studies from happy customers, I think that goes a long way as well.
Absolutely. And people are looking at your Google reviews, your Facebook reviews, depending on your business. And it really matters, especially in a business to customer, even more. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So, finally, like looking at the big picture. So, in your opinion, Rebecca, what would you say the biggest mistake that small businesses are making right now when they're trying to build those long-term relationships with their customers?
I would say the communication piece is probably the main thing. It's like the regular catch-ups, the regular follow-ups, keeping in contact, asking questions, asking for feedback. If you're a customer and you want to engage with the business, but you don't hear from them or you don't get that regular communication, you're more likely to potentially go somewhere else. So I would say that communication is absolutely key, just to be able to engage with your customers. And I would say that is the number one key, is just the communication. No matter if you're a small business of one or a business of 20, as long as that communication is going and the customers know that you're nurturing and you're adding value to them and knowing their business and how you can best support them, I think that's just gold. And people can feel that. They can feel if you're genuine, they can feel that you care and you're in business for a reason, whatever industry it is. So that's what I would say. It's just really important to do those avenues. If you don't know something, ask your customers for that feedback and that market research, and just work with that if it's possible, of course.
I think that's a really great suggestion. So we've got another question come through around market research. So what types of market research would you recommend, and what works the best in this area for small businesses?
Sure. So there's a few options. So you have an option to do like a survey. So if you want to do like a Survey Monkey, that's pretty easy to set up. So if you do have a newsletter, for example, and you want to send that out so you could get some surveys that way. There is polls on LinkedIn. I find they don't work very well, but there's options to do a poll on social media. Didn't work for me personally, but that option's there. And what I do personally in my business is I actually do market research calls. So actually, because I'm in business to business, I'm doing market research calls on a 6 monthly basis. That's how often I need to do them. And that works really well. So I talk to a couple of current customers or past customers, and then I'll go out and reach a few others that are in my potential customers or in my industry. And then I just ask them, would you be happy to do a 20-minute market research call with me? I'm looking to do X in my business. They say I'm looking to create a new package. I'm just wanting some feedback around that and what are your thoughts. And then you can say at the end, if this is of interest to you, if they're not a current customer, I'd be more than happy to share more information at the end with you. And then you can record it if you can online. That means you've got that information so you can listen to their language, which I think is really important, and then bringing that into your business. They're the ways that I personally do it and have worked really well, and for my clients as well.
Oh, look, thank you so much for sharing that, Rebecca. What I've really taken out of our conversation tonight around like building those lasting customer relationships, is exactly what you just said. Like, it's the focus here is about more than just making a sale. It is about listening. It's about creating real connections with the other humans that you are here to serve, delivering that value. I guess it's really about showing you care, and that really came through what you were sharing with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. And customers can feel that. I think at the end of the day, even though we're using a lot of digital tools, and like we are today, we're on Zoom, but it's letting that shine through, and customers can feel that, and you're going to stand apart from other businesses because of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, just as we're wrapping up today, I just want to remind everyone that at Business Station, we do actually offer a free business coaching session, the first one for free, where we can really help you take what you've learned today and apply it directly to your business and find out how we can support you further going forward. So whether you are looking to increase that customer loyalty, or you're more interested in refining your customer service, or even if you're looking for just new ways that your business can add value to your current market, we're here to support you. And you can actually book a first session for free with Rebecca or any one of our other expert coaches, and they'll work with you one-on-one to create strategies that are going to work for your specific small business. So I'm just dropping the link right now into the chat, and I'd really recommend taking us up on that. Just visit the website there to schedule your session. Spots are limited though. There's only one of Rebecca, so make sure that you grab yours soon. And look, thank you so much again, Rebecca, for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you very much to everyone for joining, and really hope that we see you in a coaching session very soon.
Thank you, everyone.
There's one more thing that I'm going to pop in the chat as well, and this is a link to Rebecca on LinkedIn. So don't forget to give her a follow, connect with her there so that you can share, you can just, benefit from some of the insightful things that she shares on there. And make sure you keep out an eye for our newsletter, which will drop in your box tomorrow or Friday with all of our follow-up resources from what we spoke about today. Beautiful. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. And yeah, we look forward to hearing more from Rebecca again soon. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was really insightful.